Hi, my name's Annie Slater, and I will be presenting today on my reflective presentation for the Dulcier industry project. So, a little bit of background on the project. I was a learner in this project, and what our group was tasked with was supporting Longtail Property, which is it's a company that has many different facets to their organization, but one of them is their ability to provide a switching service for energy consumption. And what our group was tasked to do was to support Longtail in helping the Salvation Army do more good with their donations. And to do that, what our group was required to do was to understand the pain points of those who are accessing emergency relief services through the doorways services provided by the Salvation Army. So, in a nutshell, the Doorways is a program that provides emergency relief for those Australians who are in really financial hardship, who really need some support in meeting their most basic needs. So what our group was tasked with was understanding the pain points for that demographic, understanding who are the people that access the Doorways program through the Salvation Army, what's going on in their lives, what is their financial stresses like, but more importantly, understanding the impact of energy stress on that demographic and understanding that currently the way that they are consuming energy and paying for energy means that they end up paying sometimes upwards of double what non-vulnerable energy consumers pay for their electricity. So not only are they financially stressed and have less finances to pay for their electricity bill, but they're often paying double. So what Longtail really wanted to do was to be able to pair with the Salvation Army to provide a service to engage that demographic who historically have been quite difficult to engage because they're potentially fearful of the risks and often a lot of them have energy debt themselves when they look at their electricity bill. So our role was to really, in a nutshell, understand the demographic first and foremost, but then through understanding that demographic, determine and create a bit of some marketing ideas around how we could engage this group so that the Salvation Army would benefit not only through a reduction in their own electricity bills, but through the more people that they could engage to switch onto Longtail services, the more money that they would have to provide donations to, because they're a not-for-profit, obviously, organisation. So that was our brief. So a little bit about our team. Our team consisted of 3 fantastic leaders. We had 3 managers and there were 5 learners, including myself. Our team was really diverse in its strengths. So we had people from real financing backgrounds. We had some people from real business, creating and starting their own businesses. We had people who were currently working in the sector. And we also had, interestingly, myself and another learner whose background actually is in community not-for-profit. So I myself am a psychologist and I've worked probably for the last 10 years with the demographic that we targeted in understanding. So I felt like I could bring a lot of my own knowledge about how to engage this group and even my own knowledge of working with the Salvation Army, which is really, really helpful when we looked further into kind of breaking up the kind of getting on task with meeting the project deliverables. So I guess in terms of the group dynamics, what what I noticed was we started our group and as a learner not knowing what to expect, not knowing how we were going to get there. And now, like, not just reflecting as I did my journals, but also reflecting back in group process, thinking about how a lot of Tuckman's 5 stages of group development really played out. And working myself as a psychologist, I understand these processes quite inherently because I do them in psychological groups. And it was really interesting to watch it in a very different stage, watching it from an academic or a business landscape with people who had been through this process before, and then people who had never done a project before, and really in how like we navigated those systems. So another thing to kind of mention too is the whole way through the project, it was very apparent at how much I guess our group was mindful that we were engaging a vulnerable energy market. People who we were really anxious about the potential of them getting exploited. And there was a lot of discussion throughout, particularly the first maybe 5 or 6 sessions around what are the ethics here around engaging this market, and reflecting maybe back on some of the concepts we've learned in ethics and decision making in the previous module. And really trying to build relationships with Longtail to really understand like what is the benefit for the consumer in actually engaging in this switching process. And I learned a lot, so that's excellent. But I guess the first stage was really about forming. So in that first stage, it was really apparent that everyone was being really polite in the first couple of meetings. They were just like setting up expectations of what the rest of the group would look like. We set up some structures around the agenda setting, some rosters around who'd be facilitating and chairing the meeting. And I guess that really helped in moving forward into the storming phase, because I think everyone got really anxious about how are we going to meet this deliverable. The task that they've set us is really, really big, and how are we going to be able to provide metrics around the rollout of this company Australia-wide, and getting really overwhelmed. And I think the leaders were really effective in how they managed us through that process, really trying to like engage us to kind of get focused. They broke us up into pods, so a demographic, which I joined, pod to research the demographic, a pod to research the Salvation Army, a pod to research marketing strategies and really understanding that, because a lot of us had never worked within a marketing phase before, and also looking commercially, like looking at the opposition, really trying to understand it. And I feel like in the leaders funneling us into those and kind of delivering the research into those, it then led into us doing an ideation phase, which was coming up with like our 5 key strategies based on our research that we could then present to Longtail Property in our final meeting. So for me, I guess being in this group as a learner, I learned so much. I learned primarily how to use so many IT platforms that I'd never, ever even thought about using before, that I'm now utilizing in my business. So Zoom, Slack, and the leaders were so helpful in kind of scaffolding that learning. I really stepped outside my comfort zone. I hate public speaking, and as a learner, I guess what was really helpful was I could kind of voice and name my fear. The leaders would be like, you can give it a go, and if at any point it's too stressful, we'll step in and help you with it, which I found really, really beneficial. I also obviously had to present in the last piece, so that was quite an opportunity, I guess, to kind of challenge some of that negative thinking I had about my own presenting skills, because it turns out they're not that terrible in the end. What else? But I guess my critical reflection about that I just want to add quickly before we finish up is that I think a lot of it was really being mindful of the impact of mitigating social loafing. And it was really apparent for certain members of our group, particularly in the storming phase, that I think we were able to, when we delegated it, certain tasks to certain people, that was addressed. But I'm really glad I was a part of this project, and I really feel like the messages that we gave to Longtail will hopefully be helpful in helping the Salvation Army do and meet that goal of doing more with their donations. So thank you.